So I thought I'd give you a quick update on my grow light setup, and I've got 2 rooms with grow lights in. I started off with them in the conservatory. It's quite nice in the conservatory. I consider them to be my seasonal effectiveness disorder sad lights. They boost the mood because they're really nice and bright if you're sitting in the conservatory in those kind of wet, windy, wintry days. But it's not the ideal placement for them really, because the conservatory is not a great place for growing little seedlings, in the first sort of 2 to 3 weeks of their life, because the temperature swings are just too big. It's really quite cold at night, and then during the day it can be blistering hot. I find the best place is in the spare bedroom, and we've got this huge wardrobe in there, and one day I was sort of clearing up the top of that wardrobe, and I looked at it and I thought I could just get an enormous number of seedling trays on top of this wardrobe and they'd be out of the way. And the beauty of the wardrobe is of that bedroom is it's kind of got this big blackout blind, so there's no sun in there really, and the temperature is really nice and stable. It's kind of between about maybe 15 degrees and 18 degrees pretty much all the time. So I start my seedlings in there on a little kind of rack, and pretty much everything starts well in that sort of 15 to 18 degree temperature range. Anything like tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, I just chip those on a windowsill that doesn't get any sun. So again, I want the temperature to be quite stable. All of our radiators are underneath our windows, so a windowsill is quite nice because it just gets that little bit of extra heat from the radiator. But temperature is probably about 18, 19, 20 sort of degrees during the day and drops down a little bit. But when you chip seeds, they start really well, regardless of sort of temperature. You don't need the sort of propagator type temperatures. So this year I haven't used propagator at all. I've just used chitting and I really loved it. So back to the grow lights. So up on top of that wardrobe, I've got an air filter, and I don't really know whether that helps very much. It's just that we leave the window open in that bedroom all the way through the day, and there's a fire. If somebody's got an open fire or a log burner or something like that, we get a lot of fumes in that room. So we've got that air filter to take the fumes out, but it may well help the seedlings as well. I don't really know. But we've also got a little fan, and the little fan makes a big difference because plants like a little bit of a breeze over them. And one of the things in a bedroom, there's not doors not open and closing all the time, and there's just the windows are behind that blackout blind, so there's not much air movement, and the little fan just makes a big difference, gives that a little bit of air movement. And yeah, they just sit up there sort of out the way, not troubling anybody. And yeah, I really love that. And then just above the kind of like little vanity area that we've got in that same bedroom, we've got a little shelf, and so we've got another little grow light up there, and I highly recommend it. I find it's just the best place to start seedlings that we've ever had, and they're there for a very short period of time. So I tend to put them in just after I've pricked them out, so just after that stage there. And on the first day after pricking out, I don't put the lights on. So, just to help them kind of get established for 24 hours, without the sort of, really high intensity lights. And then I just leave them there normally for 2 weeks. And the specifics for different varieties you can find in my sowing guides. And in the sowing guide, you'll see that there's an entry there that says time under lights or grow light time or something like that. And it does vary a little bit. So for peppers, obviously it's much longer, so it tends to be about 60 days for peppers. For tomatoes, I think it's about 6 weeks. For most sort of brassicas, it's about 30 days. For lettuces, it's about 14 days. For radishes, it's about 14 days. For spinach, it's about 14 days, things like that. Obviously, it's pretty soon. I won't need grow lights at all, but in sort of particularly in November, December, January and February, it's really nice to have those grow lights. And of course that is the time when I don't want to be traipsing backwards and forwards to the allotment all the time to sort of check my seedlings and water them and all that and put fleece over them if it's going to be cold. So it's just really convenient to have them, you know, a little step ladder away from being able to look after them. So the other grow light setup I've got, as I said, is in the conservatory. Now, as I say, it's suboptimal, but the nice thing about that is I've got a lot of height. So for the peppers in particular, and I suppose the tomatoes, once we start doing the tomatoes, I've got a lot of clearance over them, like about 18 inches above them, and I can't get that in that bedroom setup. So the peppers are okay until they're sort of this sort of size in the bedroom, but then they move into the conservatory. Now the nice thing about that conservatory though is that between about 9 o'clock in the morning and about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's in full sun. So I don't have the grow lights on during that period. I only have them on from 6 o'clock in the morning till 9, and from generally about 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 7, which is much more cost effective than the bedroom setup. But then the ones in the bedroom are only in there for 2 weeks, remember. So, and I can get a lot of trays in there. I can get 8 trays in there for that sort of 2-week period. So the cost actually is pretty negligible by comparison with the hardware with the harvest value, even with the kind of incredible energy prices that we've got right now. So the ones in the conservatory, as I said, you know, they are in winter kind of, for me, a great treatment for seasonal effectiveness disorder and a kind of bonus environment for growing. But in this time of year, you know, late winter, early spring, they're great just to give the peppers and the tomatoes just that little bit of a boost. So that is pretty much it. Now when it comes to spring, pretty much everything will just be grown in the polytunnel, apart from those heat-loving plants, tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers. And when we come to summer, almost everything just gets grown on my outdoor grow bench. And that's just a little bench that stands about this much off the floor. It stands in sources of water to keep the slugs and the snails out. And yeah, and it's just outside, and it doesn't get a huge amount of sun. It probably gets, again, sun from about 9 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock even. Definitely 9 o'clock in the morning anyway, till sort of 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that is kind of pretty much perfect for everything. It's nice for them not to get full sun all through the day. Yeah, it's nice and convenient for me to water them and look after them and all of that sort of thing. And it's obviously too hot in summer for pretty much everything in the polytunnel. So, quick update there for you. If you want to buy grow lights, then if you look in the description down below, you'll find a link to my Amazon store, and there I've got links to the various different grow lights that I've either bought or used, and comments on some others. And do look at the comments, because you know, I don't recommend all of them. So if you want more details about seed starting and growing with lights in particular, then take a look at my ebook. Scroll down to the section The Basics, and there you'll find all the details of sowing, growing with lights, hardening off, bed prep, planting, and all of that sort of thing. And if you look at the growing with lights section, then you'll also find lots more videos about growing with lights. And I should just also point out that I don't just grow with grow lights in the conservatory. I do use the windowsills in the conservatory and the little kind of grow shelf in the conservatory quite a lot, particularly for the peppers. But it does get hot up there, so having a little fan is also really useful. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.